Alright, what's up? What's up? I think the volume's louder this time. I think it looks like it is. Alright. It is late. Oh my gosh. I gotta turn that off. Got too many computers now. Okay. Alright. I don't know if there's nobody here, but otherwise I would say like welcome to the stream or something like that, but there's nobody watching. Anyway. Alright. Gotta start playing the game first. Alright, so in the stream, I did want to give some type of like political analysis and also kind of do like a debate review of the whole like Andrew Wilson, Coach Greg Adams debate, because that was just ridiculous. I mean, I'm sure they got a lot of views, but it wasn't like a real debate. Alright. So, as far as like the political stuff goes, like, kind of seems like the Republicans are like dropping the ball on the stuff that actually got Trump elected. Insofar as like people really forgot that like what really pushed Trump over the edge, like right before the election, was that whole like ad, the what is it, Trump's for you, Kamala's for they them ad. It wasn't like a white nationalist ad or like a deport them all ad or a, you know, crazy conspiracy theory about the Jays assassinating everybody. It was like because you gotta remember, like, we are a gynocentric species still, and like a lot of the MGTOW analysis is correct when it comes to politics and stuff like that. So there, like, if I'm gonna analyze it, the reason why that specific line of ads where it's like against like transgender stuff and specifically like transgender men in women's sports is because gynocentrism, that everyone will team up and get together, you know, to go against men when they're doing something that's, you know, gonna detract from women's, you know, well-being or women's benefit. So I gotta find the thing. So like that's why like the transgender issue is gonna get, you know, a lot of support, public support, because like even, you know, someone as normie as like say Pierce Morgan, like he's on board with the like keeping women out, I mean men out of women's sports and out of the bathrooms and stuff like that. Where once you start going into like, you know, ethno-nationalism and crazy conspiracy theories about the Jays assassinating everybody on the planet, when, I mean, you had a great opening. You know, they were on the news. The official story was this guy was like a trans sympathizer, and it was like the same story. He's on psychotropic drugs. He's a trans sympathizer, and instead, you guys ran with the it's the Jays crawling out of tunnels under the, you know, under the ground. Like, come on, you know. And that was like one of your guys' biggest like issues that you guys were getting support on, right? I mean, people were like, okay, if you're going to deport the criminals, everybody was supporting that. And now, keep in mind, I'm just giving like a base level, like, analysis. Like, obviously, the problems are much deeper than that, but I'm just talking about how the general public sees it and what they were voting for in the last election when they were voting for Trump. Yeah. It seems like, they're voting to remove, violent illegal immigrants and, getting the like, trans thing and, the economy too was big. And obviously, I know that Trump can't fix the economy, but, a lot of the more like low level voters or low information voters, that's what they were told, They were told that Trump's going to fix the economy. And, I mean, obviously, he can't fix the economy because it's too complicated for someone else like pull buttons or levers and just make everything like affordable. But, I think they need to kind of like explain that type of stuff to people. I know people think that the public can't handle it, but I think, at least just being, upfront about it is usually the best way. But I guess the politics, you can't do that. Just be like, look, we can't fix the economy. It's too complicated. But yeah, I mean, really, if you look at it through that gynocentric lens, like a lot of it was because like that was the thing that kind of pushed Trump over the edge, was that, I think, when people were deciding, they're like, well, violent immigrants, that's bad. And of course the like idea of, a man beating up a woman is like abhorrent, you know. Now, I'm not saying it is or isn't, but I'm saying to the general public that, And so, continuing with this political analysis, like, if you look at the Mamandi thing, I don't even know how to pronounce his name, but if you look at that in New York and you look at the fact that it was like 80 something percent women voted for him, I mean, people don't want to admit it, but I mean, the guy is clearly pretty attractive, and it's pretty much proven that typically the most attractive person wins. It's like just basic lookism, the taller guy usually wins and the more attractive guy usually wins. So, I mean, not saying, Cuomo's buff, but he's kind of got that like old school, like gruff look where, in New York, they love a like racially ambiguous metrosexual. So, he's kind of got the edge there. But I mean, as far as them voting for like socialism or again, it's like the general public doesn't even really understand these concepts enough to understand what they're actually voting for. So it'd be like, oh, well, everyone's voting for communism. I don't think so. I think everyone's just voting for him because he's attractive and well-spoken, kind of like Obama. But that's just the, lookism, gynocentrism aspect of it. I'm sure there are some other political reasons too. I mean, it just seems like the economy thing. Yeah. I think that's why people are voting for Trump too, because, people assume, well, Trump's a businessman and he runs, businesses successfully. So therefore he's good with money and he says he's going to fix the economy. And that's just kind of like the logic train that most people probably took. And it's like, that's, the economy, a modern economy is like way too complicated to just be like, well, okay, let's just lower inflation. It's getting too high. Let's just lower it. Just sign a couple papers in the Oval Office and then poof, inflation gone. Like, if that's what people believe, it's like, oh my God, we're done for. All right. So now let's talk about the whole Coach Greg Adams, Andrew Wilson debate. I mean, I watched part of the debate, but I mean, I already know Andrew's position, and I've never really watched Coach Greg Adams' content before, but I mean, he was holding his own in the debate, and then I watched his like after debate, like debate review or whatever, where he was talking about what he was thinking about the debate. So I got a better idea of what he's about, and I mean, he's a cool dude, no doubt, but I mean, I think in general, like, you know, Andrew Wilson's going to come to the debate more prepared, and I think it's part of the problem with online debates is that it is kind of like a cult of personality thing, and you know, you debate one Christian and you think, oh well, all Christians are the same, but it's not really the case, because like it's a lot easier to debate a Protestant, because since they do like the sola scriptura thing, so you can just basically just say, well, hey, if you can't prove that God exists without the Bible, then it's circular reasoning, and they're pretty much done for. But Orthodox Christianity, their position is slightly different from that, because they use the tag argument and this like a revelatory argument. Plus, they also have this apostolic succession argument, which gives their church like a high degree of legitimacy, even within the Christian world. So it's kind of, you know, it's like a different type of debate. You're not really debating, you know, marriage. Like if you're debating Andrew Wilson, you're always debating Orthodox Christianity, tag, and basically, I mean, if you're an atheist, if you're like a full-on materialist atheist, and you're like, we're just monkeys that what's it called, the Big Bang happened, and you know the universe just blew up, and now we're monkeys, like you cannot defeat them in a debate. I'm sorry, you can't. It's like it's impossible. It's a lot. It's like being an atheist and trying to defeat an Orthodox Christian in a debate is like trying to say that 2 + 2 = 5. Like, and people just don't get the tag argument, and that's why they get like so annoyed with presuppositionalism, because they try to act like, oh well, you're just making this stuff up, and it's not. They're not making it up. It is like a real debate position. Like I've watched like the Bonson debate, and I've watched a bunch of other like presuppositionalists. Like they're not making this stuff up. Like it's a real debate position, and it happens to just be one of the most powerful debate positions that you can take. So basically, to explain the tag argument in the like most simple form, the problem with atheism is that you demand material evidence for things that are immaterial, and then it screws you over, because then when you start talking about metaphysical things like what's good and what's bad and what rights and all this other stuff, you've already made the claim that there are no things that are immaterial that exist, right? So there's this logical fallacy called crackers in the pantry fallacy. Shout out to Jay Dyer. He pointed out that basically you don't find, you know, evidence of everything in the same way. Like you don't find out that God exists the same way that you find out if there are crackers in the pantry. Like you don't just go to the pantry and open and then God's there. All right. So basically the tag argument for, I'll try and put it in terms for an atheist. Like, okay, so how do you know a black hole exists, right? Scientists tell you black holes exist, right? But by definition, you cannot see a black hole, because no light can either reflect or escape a black hole, right? So just definitionally, It's invisible. It's not able to be seen, because the only way you can see something with your eye is if photons bounce off the object and then hit your eye, right? So in all technical definitional senses, a black hole is invisible. It's not able to be seen by the eye, because definitionally you need photons in order to see something. And since all photons are absorbed by the black hole and none are released. But yet most people, most scientists believe that black holes exist, right? And so what's the evidence that a black hole exists, right? The effects of the black hole are the proof that the black hole exists. The fact that everything around the black hole is getting sucked into the black hole and forming the accretion disk around the black hole, because they can see the accretion disk, right? But you can't see the black hole. But you can see the disk, or it's really a sphere, like forming around the black hole, right? And that's one of the effects of the black hole. One of the effects of the black hole is that everything gets sucked into the black hole, right? So the proof that the black hole exists is the effects of the black hole, because the black hole itself is definitionally invisible, right? So the same way that you would get information about whether the light is on or off through photons, you can't get the information the same way about the black hole. The only way that you can get the information about the black hole is through secondary evidence that the black hole exists, right? But the thing is that the black hole is the only explanation. It's the only possible explanation, right? Because if I were to say to you, well, maybe it's a pizza, maybe there's a slice of pizza up there, and that's what's sucking in all the photons and, you know, causing gravity wave distortions and time dilation and all this stuff, right? And you'd be like, well, how come a slice of pizza doesn't do that on Earth? You know, obviously it can't be a slice of pizza. I'm like, well, maybe it's a duck, or maybe it's a ping pong ball, right? And they're like, you can reduce all the things that it's not, right? It's not a duck, because obviously a duck can't survive in space, and a duck doesn't create that type of gravity. So eventually you get to the point where it's like, okay, well, it's probably like a super dense, like, ball or you know, clump of matter that has a high gravitational field, and that's what's attracting everything into it, to the point where it's creating a singularity, you know, and the event horizon, all that stuff, right? Because it's the only possible answer. It's if you eliminate all other answers, right? And there obviously is something there causing the effects, causing all the effects, right? So basically that's what tag is. Like in tag, God is the black hole. God is the thing that you can't see, you definitionally can't see, but it's the only explanation for the thing that's causing all these effects, right? And what are the effects that God is causing? Basically like truth, the ability to do logic, your reasoning skills, your identity over time, the fact that time even exists, that things have a beginning, middle, and end, you know, truth, like good, evil, you know, bad, good, right, wrong, healthy, sick, you know, all the basically any metaphysical category, and not like metaphysics like woo woo, like metaphysics like you're giving some type of moral like value to something. When you're saying, oh, this thing is good, well, that's why he goes, well, why is it good? That's why he goes, well, why is it good? What says it's good besides you? And then it's like, well, then they go to God and they say, well, it's good because God created the universe, and God said he wants you to do this thing, right? And that's why it's good. Not because you said it's good, it's because God said it's good. Right. And so that, I think that's the main part that people are missing. It's like, okay, well, like how does tag prove that God exists? Well, that's how, because God is the only possible answer for all these things existing, right? Like you having an identity over time. Like if you really think about it, it's like, you know, I forget what it's called, the boat thing, the Greek boat thing, where you it's like if you replace all the parts of the boat, is it still the same boat? Like if you take each plank out over time, and is it still the same boat, right? And then you might say, well, it's the same boat. Okay, so then what if we take all the parts of the old boat and reconstruct them somewhere else? Right? It's like, okay, yeah. Right. Then it's like, so what is the identity of the boat at that point, right? So how do you maintain your identity? So your identity is given to you by God, right? Like, how does time exist? Obviously, time exists because God, right? And if you don't believe that, right, then you don't believe that any of these things exist truly. Because if you're like, everything is an evolutionary process, then what's good today could be bad tomorrow, right? What's real today could be fake tomorrow, and then, so you can't defend yourself against feminists, right? Because then you're like, oh, well, they're like, well, you're like, well, this should be the traditional family. They're like, that was the traditional family. Now it's this, right? Because you don't have an unchanging standard. And they're like, well, you believe in evolution too, right? You believe we're monkeys and the universe go boom and now we're monkeys, right? And then 500 years from now, maybe we'll be ducks. We'll be super smart ducks. Who knows? So you trying to hold on to the family and all this other stuff doesn't even make sense from an atheist point of view. And that's why, kind of like the atheist MGTOW that just kind of like are like, I just don't want to reproduce, because then they're like more logically consistent. It's like, but I mean, as far as what Andrew's question was about, he doesn't understand what MGTOW or what the red pill is looking for. It's because like this batch of conservatives, especially the ortho bros, like they came into the middle of the conversation, and because they do have that strong debate position, they kind of are a little bit arrogant in the manosphere, and they don't really understand what it's about, because I mean, they're Christians, right? They don't really care about men. Like, this is like the thing that you have to like keep in mind. They don't really care about men. They're Christians. They care about the church. They care about their church and Jesus. And they care about men insofar as it's going to help and benefit their church and help and benefit spreading the word of Jesus. But to like, they clearly say, like, they're not men's rights activists. They're not red pill. Like, Andrew says that all the time, and he's being clear about it. And I think just because, they're Orthodox Christian, they support patriarchy. Sometimes, we have aligning, goals, and sometimes we don't. Now, when it comes to the goals that don't align, I think that part of it is that the Orthodox Christians are, I don't want to say they're a political organization, but because they have this holistic view of society and the world, they don't really separate politics from their, religious views, right? So they're always, in essence, advocating for everyone to join the church, right? And I think that's one of the biggest problems with, because basically that's why everyone's talking past each other, right? Because basically red pill and MGTOW, we want marriage reform. And if you're going to act ignorant and act like you don't know that that's what people are looking for, basically there's two basic types of like red pillers or MGTOW, whatever, right? There's the guys that want marriage reform, and then there's the guys that want to be left alone because they don't want to get married, and they don't want people, basically conservative Christians, telling them that it's their duty and they're less of a man if they don't, saddle themselves with kids in debt because they're basically atheists and they don't believe in like legacy and all that stuff, right? So those are the two types of guys that are in it. The mainly, those are the two most general categorizations of MGTOW. And this is why you're getting confused a little bit. This is why the Christians get confused, is because sometimes they'll look at like a red pill guy who's like more like Coach Greg Adams, and he's just kind of like, well, you know, society's already done for. They're like, I can't fix society. I can't personally fix society. And the conservatives basically want me to like forego like any, you know, female interaction, but they refuse to fix, you know, or even give lip service to fixing. Because like I said, I don't think we can fix any of this stuff. But I think it is dishonest of the Orthodox Christians that argue this position and they act like, oh, I don't know what are the red pillars even on about? Like, well, they're just talking about all this stuff. I can't figure out what the red pillars want. No, you do know. But the fact is that you're trying to block us because you don't want to do marriage reform because you see that will allow like atheists to get married. So you won't advocate for marriage reform. You just want everyone to join your church. Right? That's it. It's that simple. That's why they just sit here arguing with you all day. You guys don't get it. They'll sit here arguing with you all day and you'll be like, well, can't we just get rid of no fault divorce? And can't you guys just help us like get rid of no fault divorce? And like help us get rid of like insane child support payments and maybe make it so that's more socially acceptable or unacceptable to get divorced and stuff like that. And then the Orthodox Christians are like, you know what? You know what you guys should do? You should join the Eastern Orthodox Church. And then we won't have to worry about the government. Because everyone will be Eastern Orthodox, and then we'll all be under the Eastern Orthodox Church, and then you won't have to worry about getting a no-fault divorce, and you won't have to worry about all that stuff because you'll be in the Eastern Orthodox Church, right? That's their real debate position because you guys aren't paying attention. Like they're obfuscating the point, and that's why they're like. We were like, oh, can you guys just kind of say, let's get rid of no fault? They're not going to say it. Their only response to everything that you say is, you are working with Satan, and if you don't join the Orthodox Church, you don't have the right to even speak. Because that's what they're saying. When they're doing the tag argument, that's what they're saying. They're saying that you literally don't have the prerequisite philosophical framework to even have knowledge. And so that means you're not allowed to talk, right? And especially an atheist, because you have like no grounding for the things that are the basis of what we would consider knowledge, right? Like things having identity, time happening, things not changing, like constantly changing. So it's like, they're like, look, bro, like, I don't even know why I'm talking to you. Like, you're an atheist. You don't, like, your literal philosophical position is, I don't know anything. And I can't know anything because all the world is just a bunch of molecules bumping into each other. That's all it is. There is think about it, there's no identity, there's no like time, that's the atheist position, is that the universe is just a bunch of molecules bumping into each other. Right? There's no like truth, no justice, no love, none of that, because you don't believe in that, right? But then you want to have a debate over what's right and what's wrong. When it's like tomorrow, what's right could be what's wrong, and what's wrong could be right, because it's evolving. Everything's evolving, right? So it's like both parties. I'm not even talking about the people, because the people themselves are cool people. It's just the schools of thought You know, it's like they're diametrically opposed, and that's why MGTOW kind of formed in the first place. It's because the conservatives just wouldn't, you know, they're not going to give any quarter. It's like they want to block you from doing anything except being a virgin and getting married and staying with the same woman for the rest of your life and basically paying for her. That's part, I mean, I'm not saying that it's wrong, but that's, you know, that's their religious belief. And so like trying to have a debate with Orthodox Christians about like, well, are you going to help the rest of men in society? No, they're not. They only care about the people that are in their church. And they feel like more morally justified than like Jewish people, because that's the difference between Christianity and Judaism, is that, you know, you can't join Judaism. So it's kind of like, so they have that out where they're like, yeah, we're going to steamroll over everybody, but you can join us though, at least. And if you're like, oh, I don't want to join you, and they're like, oh, well, you're Satan and you don't have the right to speak. I mean, that's the debate position. Everybody wants to be like, oh, whoa, the raw truth. Everyone's giving out the raw truth. That is it. That's the truth, right? That's the debate position. You guys don't have, that's Orthodox Christian debate position. You guys don't have the right to speak. You don't have the ability to obtain knowledge. And so therefore, if you don't join our church, you're basically fair game. And they're not going to help us do a marriage reform. They're not going to lay off of the guys that don't want to get married because they feel like, you know, it's not something that they're interested in. And they're not going to be like, oh, well, you're a real man too. If you don't want to like get married and have kids, no, it's never going to happen. You know, and I'm saying this as someone, like, if someone came to me, like, you know, like, things are complicated. Because it's like, if someone came to me today and they were like, hey, man, I'm thinking about joining a religion. I'm thinking about joining Christianity. What religion should I join? I would be like, yeah, try Eastern Orthodox. So it's not, I'm not against Eastern Orthodox, you know. It's just that's the debate. That's the real position. That's like, we're not going to help you join our church. We're not, you know, the American politics is a joke. And it is. I mean, you can't even blame them. You know. But I think it will just save a lot of time, people trying to go in and debate Orthodox Christians, especially atheists. It's like, just stop. It's like their debate position is like literally like one of those 2,000 degree steel balls, and atheism is basically like a block of ice. It's like you cannot beat them in a debate as an atheist. It's not physically possible. Because they're just going to say, where are the rights? Point to where good is. Where is good? I don't see it. And because that's your position. It's that every single thing in the universe is made up of molecules and atoms. But then the funny thing is, it's like, if you actually study quantum physics, then you would know that molecules and atoms aren't made up of anything. Like, they're at the lowest level, just like some type of like field. It's like, not like, there's nothing there. There's no there. Which is like, that's kind of why I believe in God. Because I'm like, come on. Quantum physics, it's a joke. I mean, most of the stuff is true. Like, obviously people say like, oh, quantum physics is completely like fake and made up. It's not though, because it's like electrons. It's quantum physics. It's like, that's how your computer works. There's electrons going through the circuit board. But then when you're getting down to like, okay, well, then we broke down the atom, and then there's all these particles below that, and then there's particles below that. At a certain point, either you're not going to be able to see it because it's just, you know, imperceptible. And obviously the Big Bang has pretty much been disproven. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, the public view of science, and then like what most like actual like physicists, and it's like years, like decades behind. Like, you know, kind of like the pop culture. It's like the whole like atoms thing and all that stuff. Like, that's not even like a very good perception or way to perceive. It's like the fields theory is like the more popular theory now, where like basically like everything is like a field, and then at certain convergence points is what like causes what we view as particles to exist, because basically it's just like a convergence point in the field, and then that kind of like makes the thing seem more real. But it's like when you're really getting into like quantum physics and philosophy and asking what's real and what's fake, and it's like, man, I don't think I'm qualified to talk about that. But as far as if you're going to say that, you know, God does not exist and it's beyond a reasonable doubt, I don't think that you can say that beyond a reasonable doubt that God does not exist. You know, that's why I would say that at least anyone should take at least the agnostic position, just based on the evidence that, you know, both positions are not falsifiable. Like, there's no way to prove that God exists or that God doesn't exist in this type of reality, because there's just as much evidence pointing to the fact that God does exist as doesn't. It's like basically like 50-50, you know. And I'm not saying, oh, you can't believe in God or you can't not believe in God, but I'm just saying, you know, and from a secular perspective, like, you know, if we're living in a society where everybody has different beliefs, I would say that taking the neutral position, or it's not neutral, but the agnostic position, where it's like both positions are unfalsifiable when it comes to like doing public stuff, because it is a belief. At a certain point, it is a belief. Either way. I mean, being agnostic is also a belief, but I move my position from agnostic over to, you know, I mean, people would call it a deist, but I don't even think it's a deist. I would say that God is logically necessary. Like, there's no way you can like get around it. And if it's logically necessary and it's a logically necessary precondition, then it has to be true. And so that's why I believe in it. But like, as far as believing in the actual like Bible and all that stuff, I haven't studied it enough. I think that's part of it too. Like, you know, I was raised Protestant, so like they didn't really have good answers when I had questions. But now, you know, suplex. But yeah, I mean, that's mainly what I wanted to get into, is that, you know, atheists just really, I think at a certain point you're being ignorant if you're like, it doesn't take that long to really like learn the tag argument. I mean, if you want to get granular with it, but I mean, you can look up a tag video, transcendental argument for God video, and watch like a 20-minute video and pretty much understand what it's about. I mean, I think my explanation was pretty good, but it's kind of, I was just kind of giving an analogy more than a direct explanation. But I mean, that's what it is. It's like, and then the Orthodox are just being a little dishonest when they're acting like, you know, they don't know what the red pillars want. I don't know what do you guys want? We want to get rid of no fault divorce and like crazy alimony payments and all that type of stuff, basically. Because you got a bunch of guys here, you know, like the TFM type crowd and a bunch of other people, but TFM is like a really good example because he's like a high level business guy and all his audience is all high level business guys, but they're atheists, you know, but they're pretty much all America first. They're all either libertarian or conservative. And just because they're atheists, you guys are like, oh, you guys are gooners. I can't talk to you. Join the church or die. Right? And you got like thousands and thousands of guys that basically like want to work with you. And you're just like, ah, gooners, join the church or die. Too bad, don't care. Okay, keep losing then. Yeah. But like I said, you know, I don't really know too much about Coach Greg Adams, but from what I've seen of his work, he's a cool dude, and you know, I'm definitely like a ortho bro supporter. Like, but like, you know, I'm like, sure, you can tell people to join the church, but stop acting like it's like feigning it. The feigning ignorance is like getting annoying. Oh, what are red pillars even on about? I can't figure out their debate position. It's just like, oh, you don't understand. I can't understand a red pillar, man. They're so confusing. Then one guy says this and the other guy says that, and then this guy says that. No, there's two types. There's the guys that want you to leave them alone, don't tax them, and stop saying that they're not a man because they don't want to like saddle themselves with a woman. And then there's the guys that want marriage reform. That's it. They're like, just, you know, we don't want to be a Christian to be able to get married and not have to lose all our stuff. It's pretty simple. So yeah, that's it. That's what I want to talk about today. I'll shut up now before people get pissed off. Oh yeah, one other thing I did want to give a shout out to Father Dr. Deacon Ananias, and you can check out his channel, Patristic Faith. It's actually a really good channel, and some of his older videos, like he does like full university PhD level philosophy courses on his channel for free. Especially some of his older ones. It's like got a philosophy 101 video. It's like an hour-long lecture. I would definitely check that out. And he definitely does release some like newer philosophy videos like every once in a while. He does have a lot of like religious videos too. Obviously he's a priest. But, you know, he has some, like, secular philosophy videos, too, on there. And I think that's the best way to really kind of understand the Orthodox position because, you know, it's obvious that nobody understands their debate position. And that's why these debates are, like, it's like, from me watching, it's like it's stupid. Like, yeah, dunking on people, and it's funny, but it's like the fact that you go into a debate with an Orthodox and then they have to give you once they start giving you a lecture about like philosophy, you're done. You're cooked. You know, it's like how you can't go into a debate. It's like that's what it is. Like some people are good debaters, but you can be like a good debater, and it's kind of like being like a good driver. Like maybe you can even drive like a F1 race car, right? But the Orthodox position is basically like, they're like the pit crew. So you're in your car, you're sitting there, you're acting like you're super cool, and and they're outside the car, like taking the wheels off, taking the door off, you know, taking the ignition off, taking the exhaust off. And then you're just like left, like sitting there on your chair, like on your seat on like cinder blocks holding the steering wheel. And you think you're like doing a debate, but they already like took your whole car off before you even got to put your foot on the gas. Like literally, that's like what presuppositionalism is. Like, I think that's the best analogy for presuppositionalism. And it's like, so if you don't know presuppositionalism, you're cooked. You can't debate an Orthodox Christian. You can just act like you can hand wave it, but you can't. And it makes you look stupid when you try to. So, yeah. But I mean, I'm also in support of men that don't want to get married and don't want people telling them that they're. I mean, come on, what are you going to tell Coach Greg Adams he's less of a man? He's not a real man. Like, come on, it's a joke. But yeah, that's it. I'm gonna shut up now before I get in trouble, more trouble. All right. I think that's enough of this for today. So hopefully you got something out of what I was talking about if you watched that part of the video. Otherwise, have a good time and peace.